here you go again. And let me ask first, who watching this is a sports fan? Sports fans? Yes? Yes? No you? Yeah? Alright, I'm a sports fan. I enjoy watching sports on TV for the most part. Some sports are a little slower than others. I watched all 4 major sports when in America. I watched baseball, football, basketball, hockey. Watched all 4 of them. I've enjoyed watching soccer at times, especially when more as a group of people. I watched several boxing pay-per-views during the 90s. So yeah, I'm a sports fan. I'm not the biggest sports fan. I'm not a fanatic, but I enjoy sports. And since the Olympics are coming up next month, we're in the middle of baseball season. The football preseason is going to start next month as well. So let's talk about sports. For this, I'm going to talk about my top 10 favorite sports movies. All right. So there was one rule I had to put on this list, and that is that because there are so many baseball movies, I had to just limit it. I went to only 4. There are only going to be 4 baseball films on this list, because I'm sure a lot of people could probably put a top 10 baseball movies. Alright, so here we go. Number 10 is Mighty Ducks. Now this is a family movie, it's kind of a kids movie, and so this movie is basically the Bad News Bears in hockey. Now some of you may be wondering why I just choose the Bad News Bears. Well, first of all, it's the rule from only 4 baseball movies, and second of all, I kind of prefer the Mighty Ducks to the Bad News Bears, mainly because I'm a 90s guy. The Bad News Bears came out in the 70s, and the Mighty Ducks came out in the 90s. Hey, I had to choose what I know better. And besides, I watched Mighty Ducks first. And some of you may be asking, well, why don't you just use the one with Billy Bob, the remake? Nah, the Mighty Ducks had more impact on me, as it was more memorable as a movie. You know, Emilio Estevez playing a lawyer that gets in trouble with the law, and instead of going to prison, they have him coach the youth hockey team. Now, there was a nice little progression with some of the characters accepting him, and some of them just growing to like him a bit. There's a whole, I guess you could say, romance between him and one of the single moms in and also the way that they get their name, the Ducks, especially when you consider this came out years before the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim and before they just became the Ducks. Yeah, Anaheim actually named its team after a fictional hockey team. Weird, huh? So yeah, the only big downer on it is the fact that it was really just the scene where he thinks about his past, and he was a youth hockey player. Because he missed this one goal, they lost the championship, and he's kind of haunted by it. It's like, looking back on it, I don't care. I really don't care. But the rest of it is okay. It's not for everyone, and I don't know how well it's aged, because it definitely at times feels like a 90s movie. Yeah. So take that for what it's worth. Number 9 is Blue Chips. Some of you may not know this movie. This one actually has Shaq in it, and some of you already started groaning because we all know Shaq is not the best actor, but he's not a star in this. He's a co-star. His screen time is somewhat limited, and so I think he's probably best in small doses. So you have this college basketball coach trying to get his team together, but there's this nice little dichotomy of the owners of the university heads, all these people wanting more stars in their basketball team to get more ad revenue, to get more money for the school, And so there's a lot of this, okay, should we pay our players? Because for those of you outside of the United States might not know, but college players in the NCAA are not allowed to get any sort of salary, any sort of money from anyone. They're not even considered workers, so they can't get workers' compensation. And so this is interesting little, I guess, backstage look at basketball and how certain colleges will try and recruit players, but try and manipulate their lives even in order to better them as a bribe to bring them into the college program. It's an interesting story, and I feel that the movie may not be well known, but it's definitely one that you kind of root for the coach on this one, because he doesn't want to do this. He's more the moral center, but he kind of hates what is going on and wants to not be that way. But all in all, I find it kind of interesting. Number 8, from 9 to 8. Number 8 is Any Given Sunday. Now, this movie, I could definitely see it as an interesting movie. It's another one I think that isn't well known, and so this one has Cameron Diaz, Jamie Foxx, and Robert Downey Jr. Not Robert Downey Jr. Who am I thinking? What am I doing? Robert De Niro. But yeah, Robert De Niro is a coach of a football team. The new owner, played by Cameron Diaz, is trying to make the best of the situation. She's a new owner. She's got to have this strife between her, the coach, and not to mention the star quarterback, played by Jamie Foxx. It's an interesting little triangle of trying to one-up each other and trying to use each other, manipulate each other. Not to mention, the title I like because it's a good play on Any Given Sunday. Any team can beat any other team, which is the whole basis of football. And even though this movie is not real well known and I don't remember it too well, I do remember enjoying it, and I remember some of the good plot points of it. I don't want to spoil it for you because I do want you to go check it out, and it's a movie that I think needs more eyes on it. So that's just my opinion. Number 7 is Major League, the first baseball movie on this list. Major League, oh man, I used to watch this movie a lot when I was a kid. This one has Wesley Snipes, Baron Corbin Bernstein, Charlie Sheen, and man, they look really different from how they look now. I mean, it's kind of look when you look back, I was like, wow, if only knew what happened to some of these guys. And the story is the owner of the Cleveland Indians wants to move the team somewhere that's a little more profitable, somewhere near the beach as well. And she decides that in order to do this, she's got to recruit the worst players possible and just make sure the team sinks to last place so that she can move the team. Now, the interesting dichotomy of that is also evident in the way that the players play, because you say, oh wow, she might just get her wish, how badly they're doing. But there's also some good character development between the characters, between the team itself. It at times comes across like an actual team, and you feel like, wow, they're trying to learn and better themselves throughout this season. I won't give away too much of the movie, like I said. It's pretty infamous, but I still think people should check it out. It's a funny movie, that's for sure. There are quite a few comedies on this list, and I laughed a lot watching this movie when I was young. Number 6 is Necessary Roughness. Speaking of comedies, this one has got Bakula and Sinbad in it, of all people. Now, this one is pretty different from some of the other movies. Now, this one starts with the championship team, but then gets dismantled because of all the different scandals. It's a college football team, just so you know. And so, because the team is getting dismantled because of doping scandals, test rigging, player payoffs, this sort of thing. There's a nice little start to it, and now it's about the team reforming after all of these scandals have hit it. And the coach in the season opener tells them that the last year they won a national championship, but they lost their self-respect, and now you got to get it back. It's an interesting thing to think about, because most of these movies are about winning a championship, being the best, going to the World Series, but this one is very different from that. And it's more of them getting through the season and also getting through school life, especially when you look at their quarterback, who is played by Scott Bakula, and the way that he's an old guy. He used to be a great high school player, but he skipped on going to college, and now they want him back in college. And that's part of the story, but there are little subplots of some of the other characters which are pretty interesting. And it's definitely another late 80s, early 90s movie. It's got a lot of cameos in it that if somebody younger watches it now, they're like, who's that? Who's that? Who's that? Because there's a scene where the football team has a scrimmage match against a team made up of prisoners. I'm laughing because I'm remembering the scene. It's hilarious. And if there's a lot of sports celebrities at the time on this team, and so if you don't know it, you're just going like, who the hell's that? Who the hell's that? Ask your dad, ask your uncle, ask someone who's a sports fan from the 90s who could tell you, oh yeah, that's, and just point out to them. So yeah, so that's part one of my top 10 favorite sports movies. Now, let me just ask, what's your favorite sport? All right, what's your favorite sport? Mine? Football. American football, for those of you watching outside the U.S. American football is my favorite sport. So stay tuned for part 2, and later.